Subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss another video of Bhakti Charu Swami.
So, how many of you are coming for the first time? Most of you actually came for the first time. How do you like it here? Well, I mean, probably you haven't really got the feel of this place. Yes. How do you like it? It's all right, let it be there. And yeah, well, I presume that all of you are practicing Krishna consciousness. Yeah, naturally. Anyway, still, for the sake of it, how many of you are practicing Krishna consciousness? Please raise your hands. Yeah, we're trying to practice or practicing. Same. And how many of you are initiated already? From Tampa, yes, you are. And where is, okay. Nayanabhiram Prabhu is not here. So, thank you very much for bringing everyone here. Your name I forgot. Yeah.
Shubhavilas.
Shubhavilas. Okay. And what do you do in Tampa?
Actually, I live a little south of Tampa.
I see. Where?
Punta Gorda. It's
Panchagoda?
Punta Gorda.
Sounds like a Sanskrit name.
It's
and what do you do there?
like professionally, professionally you mean? So I work as an engineer.
IT?
No, industrial.
Oh, wonderful. Very nice. And you're from which part of India?
India, Faridabad, near Delhi.
Okay. Haryana. Is it Haryana or UP?
Haryana.
Haryana.
But I spend most of my time outside.
You're born here or grew up here? Did you grow up in?
No, I came to US 3 years back.
Okay.
3 years.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So, yes.
I'd also welcome the USF students who are here from the University of South Florida. Raise your hand.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, how many of you are students coming from here? And you all are from which university?
University of South Florida.
Tampa. Okay. Okay. Very good. Yeah, once again, how many of you are studying? I mean, students. Like, just two of you. Okay. Yes. And very good. What is Krishna consciousness? The name itself is actually identifying that. Krishna consciousness. We all are conscious, right? Consciousness is the symptom of life. Wherever there is life, there is consciousness. Can there be consciousness without life?
No.
And according to the Vedic understanding, there are 5 different types of consciousness. One is covered consciousness. The trees and plants, they fall in that category. They're conscious, but their consciousness is practically covered. It seems as if they don't have any consciousness. But close scrutiny reveals that trees and plants are also conscious, right? Do you remember in botany class experimenting that the trees and plants have consciousness or they are alive? One thing is, with a plant in a tub, you turn the tub upside down, then what happens? What happens to the plant?
So
Yes?
it's growing up, right?
Right. It grows upright. Very good. You're a scientist. And another symptom is you keep the plant little away from the window. In the room, what happens?
Grows too much.
It grows toward the sunlight.
Right. It moves towards the sunlight. Now, can this table move like that?
No. No.
Why not?
Because it's a stack.
Because it's dead. Yeah. Because it's dead. But the trees and plants,
Move.
they are moving because
They're alive. They're alive.
they are because they are alive. So, trees and plants have life?
Yes.
Good, very good. But their consciousness is covered. So in Sanskrit, that's called Achadita Chetana. Chetna means consciousness. And Achadita means covered. Covered consciousness. Then the next category is shrunken consciousness. Shrunken. From insects to the animals, they are conscious, but their consciousness is not properly exposed, it's in a shrunken state. Then the third category is bad consciousness. The Sanskrit word for that is, Sanskrit word for shrunken consciousness is, very good, Shanku Chita Cheta. And the third category in Sanskrit, it's called Mukulita Cheta. Mukul means a bud. And the human beings fall in that category. A bud, although apparently in a shrunken state, but it has the ability to bloom. Now, human beings, although apparently their consciousness is like in a shrunken state, but human beings have the ability to expand their consciousness. Just like a bud has the ability to bloom. But for a bud to bloom, it needs two conditions. One is exposure to the sun, especially lotus bud. When it is exposed to the sun, and the other is shelter of water. If you take the bud out of the water and you keep it lying there, what will happen? It will wither. You want to say something?
I wanted to say the answer.
Yeah.
But you told me if you take it still is there, then it will be dead, right?
Yeah, good. They will be dead. Okay. So now for a lotus bud to bloom, it needs rays of the sun and shelter of water. Now for human consciousness to bloom needs two factors like that. One is exposure to Krishna under the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. When a human being comes under these two conditions, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, becomes exposed or becomes aware of Krishna, then what happens? His consciousness begins to bloom. That's the fourth state of consciousness, called Vikoshita Cheta. Bikoshito means, Bikash means bloom, to expand, to grow, to open up. Bikoshito Cheta. And then when one becomes fully Krishna conscious, then it is called Purna Bikoshita Cheta. And that is the ultimate goal. So now you tell me, animals are in a shrunken state of consciousness and human beings are in a shrunken state of consciousness.
And that makes us animals.
So what's the difference between, you said something?
That makes us animals too.
That makes not you, that makes a human being also in the same category as the animals. So, only difference is, those beings, those human beings are civilized animals. Animals live in a forest. Those who are not really taking advantage or not really coming up to that standard, their consciousness is like also same as animals. Why same as animals? What are the animal propensities? What do the animals do? Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Ahara nidra bhaya maithunancha shamanan etat poshubhi shaman. Poshubhi means they are also similar to the animals. Only thing is that human beings do it in a civilized way. Their eating habits are more refined than animals. Their sleeping is more comfortable than animals. Their eating habit is more refined, and their mating habits are more refined. That's about the only difference. Therefore, the Vedas are saying, now you transcend that platform and come to the proper spiritual platform. Athata Brahma Jigyasa. One transcends the animal platform and comes to that spiritual platform, or real human platform, when he begins to question. Those questions are Brahma Jigyasa. Who am I? Brahma Jigyasa literally means spiritual inquiry. Spiritual inquiry. From material platform, the spiritual inquiry is beginning. Who am I? Now, can anyone other than the human being ask that question? No. It takes an intelligent individual to question that, and practically every human being at some point in time makes that inquiry. Especially when he is in total despair, in an acute suffering condition, and he's feeling totally frustrated or totally miserable. Then he questions, who am I? What am I supposed to do here? What am I doing here? Where did I come from? And this is Brahma Jigyasa. And these inquiries lead him to finding out a bona fide teacher who could answer these questions. Didn't it happen to all of you? Like most rarely, maybe you all did not come to that total despair or suffering condition, but your fortune, good fortune, was created by the devotees. Right? How did you come to Krishna consciousness? Due to your contact with some devotees, or by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, which means coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada. You read Srila Prabhupada's books, and to begin with also, to get the books of Srila Prabhupada, you needed the mercy of a devotee. So it is by the mercy of a devotee that one receives this good fortune. Therefore, it is said the only way one can come to the platform of devotional service by receiving the mercy of a devotee. Only a devotee can give devotion. There is a great devotee in our sampradaya, in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His name is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote a book called Madhurya Kadambini. And in that book, right at the beginning, Vishwanath Chakravarti is making this point. What enables one to receive devotion to Krishna? And he is making various considerations. Does pious activities lead to devotional service? No. Does austerities and penance lead to devotional service? No. Then finally he is coming to the point, does Krishna give devotional service? No. Why? Because if Krishna gives devotional service to some and doesn't give to others, then Krishna will be considered to be partial. But Krishna is completely impartial. So therefore he's concluding, Krishna also doesn't give devotional service. Then who gives devotional service? The devotees. Devotees are compassionate. They go out of their way to distribute indiscriminately. They try to give it to everybody. But it's up to the individuals to receive it. Those who receive it, they become the fortunate souls. So that is how one receives Krishna consciousness. That is how one transcends the materialistic plane, I would say, and comes to the spiritual platform. And it's extremely important that we actually achieve that good fortune. And when we receive that good fortune, then what will be our natural tendency? The natural tendency will be to give it to others. An example in that respect is given, is that if there is an epidemic and you have the cure, then what will you do? Will you simply cure yourself? Or go out and give it to everybody so that they also can survive? Now in the material world is like that. The living entities are suffering. Living entities are samsara, mrittu samsara vartmani. This line, this material nature has been described by Krishna as a path that leads to death. This samsara, this materialistic life, is a path that leads to death. Isn't that the goal of everybody's existence here in this material platform? Everybody eventually, whether he likes it or not, is going to meet that end. Everybody is going to die. Now we have to, then again Vedas are actually declaring, Shrinnantu Vishye Amritasya Putra. Shrinnantu means listen. Listen. In this world, Vishye, in this world, you all who are the children of immortality. Amritasya Putra. Amrita means immortal and Amritasya means of immortal. Putra, children. You all are the children of the Supreme Immortal, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So why should you subject yourself to death? You all are immortal. But the mortality takes place when we identify ourselves wrongly with the body. The body is perishable. But our actual identity is that we are spiritual entities, we are spirit souls. And that spirit soul is immortal. Na jayate mriyateva kadachi. The spirit soul is never born, nor will the spirit soul ever die. So these are the most wonderful informations that has been given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself through the Vedas. Vedas again, what does Vedas mean? Vedas means knowledge. Not ordinary knowledge. Vedas are dealing with special knowledge. The knowledge about another world, another reality, which at the time of creation was given to the first living entity in this material nature by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. The knowledge that He gave to Brahma. And then this knowledge is being transmitted through a chain of disciplic succession from teacher to the student. Krishna is the original teacher, gave it to first student Brahma. Then in course of time, Brahma assumed the role of a teacher and gave it to his son Narad. In this way, this knowledge has been flowing through a disciplic succession. Then in course of time, this knowledge was lost when the Kali Yuga began. There was a need for reviving that knowledge. So Vasudev did the job under the direction of Narad Muni. Then again, in course of Kali's influence, the knowledge was lost. Then Madhvacharya revived it. Kali Yuga is actually a very dangerous age where the spiritual knowledge gets lost from time to time. Just as we see in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna, in course of time, sakaleneha mahata yoga nashto parantapa. In course of time, due to the influence of time, sakaleneha mahata yoga, this great wisdom was lost. Yoga nashta got spoiled. The knowledge got spoiled. But I am going to establish this knowledge through you again. Because bhaktosi me sakha cheti. Because you are my devotee and because you are my friend. So once again, 5,000 years back, Krishna re-established this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. And then in recent past, also it was lost. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and gave this a very, very special shape. The direct access to devotional service. In other ages, prior to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this process of devotional service was not available directly. One had to gradually come to the platform of devotional service. The Vedic wisdom has 3 different levels. Karmakanda section, Jnanakanda section, and transcending those 2 platforms when it comes to the platform of devotion. That was a general tendency or general trend. Gradually one had to elevate oneself to the platform of devotion, which is the highest level of spiritual activity. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us a direct access to devotional service. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is considered as Mahavadanya, the most munificent. Even the Lord Himself did not display this kind of this kind of magnanimity and mercy. But he did that when he came as a devotee. And without any consideration of qualification and eligibility, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed this Krishna consciousness to everybody. But then again, soon after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance, soon after means about 250 to 300 years after Mahaprabhu's disappearance, this knowledge was lost by the unscrupulous individuals who, in the name of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, had been propagating all kinds of nonsensical activities. They are called apasampradayas. They are not sampradaya. They are apasampradayas, rotten sampradayas, deviant sampradayas. And then came Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Bhakti Vinod Thakur revived Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings once again. Then came Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He distributed that teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu throughout India. And then came Srila Prabhupada to fulfill the forecast prediction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This Krishna consciousness movement would spread all over the world in every town and village. An impossible prediction, actually. It would spread all over the world in every town and village. Who could ever imagine that? But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said it. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Can God's words ever go in vain? And we are seeing that today it's happening. Say, 40 years back, could you all imagine that in Tampa you'll get an opportunity? What to speak of 40 years back? Even maybe 20 years back. Sometimes some devotees said that the good thing about coming to the West had been, I'm talking about the Indian devotees, Indian individuals. There's a good thing about coming to the West is they got Krishna consciousness. If they stayed in India, they couldn't become Krishna conscious. And the other day, actually, Krishna Mukunda was telling me that the good thing, the best thing that happened to him coming to the West was that he became a devotee. And I think that applies to most of us. Had you have stayed in India, it would have been impossible to break the barrier of your relatives and friends and come to the platform of devotion. Following the four regulative principles. Especially those who are coming from non-vegetarian background. I mean, it's the worst possible, but I mean, the most difficult possibility for them is to break that habit of meat eating. Even if they want to do that, the family members and friends keep on insisting, what's wrong with you? And what to speak of those who are into drinking alcohol and things. Therefore, you had to come to a neutral platform, like in America, come in contact with the devotees and get this wonderful process of Krishna consciousness. Do you feel that it has been a good thing that you have come to Krishna consciousness? Thank you. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So I wish you all the best. You have found the right path. Please pursue, please stay on in this path and continue. And I can assure you, I can guarantee you with full conviction that your life will become successful. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any question?
When you said life will become successful, what are the criteria of success?
Very good question. The question is, Maharaj, you said that the life will become successful. What is the criteria of that success. When I'm talking about success, it's actually spiritual success. Now, material success is, dhanam janam sundarim, to get wealth, to have a big position, and to have beautiful wife. These are the consideration of success. But the spiritual success is achieve immortality. No more death. So that is the real success. Does anybody want to die? No. Now, isn't that the most important thing to achieve? You can consider the pharmaceutical industry is the most flourishing industry today. Why is that? Because nobody wants to die. They think that they will achieve immortality by buying medicines. Yeah, it does extend their longevity, but the real thing is to achieve immortality forever, no more death. And not only that, that is the first aspect, Sat. Then the second aspect is know everything. And the third aspect is become full of joy. And these three things are actually our constitutional position. By nature, we are immortal. By nature, we are full of knowledge. And by nature, we are full of joy. But that can be achieved only through our connection to Krishna. Because Krishna is the supreme Satchidanand. Therefore, being connected to Krishna, we also get the same qualities. Right? So this is the criteria. And any other question? Yes. Yes, please take the mic.
Immortality in the sense we'll be immortal in this material world, or what does immortality mean?
Yeah. Immortality means, recognizing our real identity. Now, due to our conditioning, we are identifying ourselves with the body. And yes, the body will come to an end. The body will die. Body is constantly dying to begin with. But when you become situated in your actual identity, original identity, spiritual identity, which is beyond the body, which is actually making this body alive, that's our real self. And that by nature is immortal, the soul. See, the body is perishable. Body is constantly changing, isn't it? What's your background? Engineer?
Yes.
Okay, if you're still you have some medical understanding also, or biological understanding. In this body, the bodies are made of cells. And constantly, the old cells are dying and new cells are generated. And as a result of that, the body is changing. Like from childhood, the body grows. The new cells are generating, and that makes the body grow. Then after that comes the old age, and then the old cells start to die, and the body begins to diminish. So this is how the body is actually constantly changing. But what makes the body that is made of matter is the soul. And the soul is actually our real identity. And when we recognize and become situated in our real identity, spiritual identity, then automatically we recognize that we are immortal. And yes, it can happen here. Only thing is, our consciousness through proper practice will shift from the body to Krishna. Now we all are in the body consciousness because consciousness is flowing through the body. We can't really help but feel that I am this body. Because it's undeniable, because the consciousness is flowing through this body. But this process of Krishna consciousness will transmigrate or transform this consciousness from the body to Krishna. From this artificial projection into the body to the original connection where the consciousness is coming from for all of us. And when we do that, then yes, we become situated in our spiritual identity. And then there is no more death. And then the body will change. We'll recognize the body is changing. As Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita, that jirnani vashamshi jatha vihaya. When the dress becomes old or dirty, we give up that old dress and put on a new one. Similarly, when this body becomes uninhabitable, we discard this old body and take up a new one. So then it becomes just a matter of changing the dress. Thank you. Yes, you have a question.
Hare Krishna. I was wondering if you could give some direction. I've been working trying to help develop the devotees, working with them for about the last 8-9 years in Tampa.
Wonderful.
And how can we help them that will give them a good taste, that will make them want to grab hold tightly?
Well, the first thing I should say, that they should continue to associate with you more and more, because you are guiding them. You have shown them the right way, and that's the first thing. Like devotee association, your direction, your advice. The next thing is reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Because, Prabhupada's books actually give us the real knowledge, which enlightens us from inside. Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashita. The transcendental knowledge is revealed in the heart. And, then it follows. Like, first consideration is Sadhu Sangha. And the Sadhu Sangha will take place in the form of the sadhus that are present in front of us, and the sadhu, Srila Prabhupada, who we can associate with through his books. And then, the other things will automatically happen, practicing the process. When you become convinced about the efficacy of this process, then we diligently start to practice it, chanting, certain numbers of rounds every day, following the 4 regulative principles. So this is how and then it will go into, developing a relationship with Krishna through deity worship and such activities. So, when the beginning is right, the rest of the course will be okay. So that will be my humble suggestion to all of them. Thank you. Thank you so much for guiding them. For the last 8 years you have been so wonderful. And this is how this movement is going to spread and is spreading. Due to Prabhupada's sincere followers are taking the mission and distributing it everywhere. Hare Krishna. Any other question? Yes.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
for the wonderful class. What is the difference between Vikasit Chetna and Purna Vikasit Chetna?
Okay. Very
And
good.
how can we get there?
Very good. Like, you see, Vikashita Chetana is the practicing stage. We are practicing and our consciousness is, opening up or becoming more and more enlightened. And Purna Vikashita is when we are fully conscious of Krishna, and in the light of Krishna consciousness, we are conscious of our spiritual identity, our relationship with Krishna in the spiritual platform. So that is the Purna Vikashita, fully bloomed state of Krishna consciousness. Like, just consider the buds. The bud is opening up gradually. So that is the Vikashita stage. But when the bud is fully bloomed, like that lily in Srila Prabhupada's hand, is like, fully bloomed. And then, you are actually taking, the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, fully. And you also become aware aware of your spiritual identity. Jiver Sarup Hai, Krishna Nityadas. Become situated in one spiritual Sarup, spiritual identity. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So, is there any other question? Yes, please.
So you just mentioned that Krishna's divine knowledge that is getting broken down again and again, even after the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 200 years back, it is broken. So my confusion, and I want to understand that, like, Buddhism came 2000 years back. So it is still going on. Why those things are not breaking down? Why Krishna's pure knowledge is getting broken down again and again?
Yeah. You see, when such deviation takes place in this material nature, the rectification takes place to maintain the mainstream, but the deviated aspect continues in their own way. It's not that they disappear forever. You get the point? Like, for example, as you mentioned about Buddhism, why Buddhism started. Krishna himself started it in order to stop the animal sacrifice. And when that mission was accomplished, animal sacrifice was stopped, then he sent Lord Shiva, Shankaracharya. Because in order to stop animal slaughter that was going on in the name of the Vedas, Buddha had to reject the Vedas, or didn't have anything to do with the Vedas. And through Buddhism, the Vedic culture was totally lost. So then Shankaracharya came and re-established the Vedas over the atheism of Buddhism. Buddhism is actually covered atheism. Shankaracharya came, re-established the Vedas. Buddhism is atheism, covered atheism, because they don't accept the Vedas. And without the Vedas, there is no way of knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead and spiritual reality. So that's why now there is a need to re-establish the Vedas. But Shankaracharya had to do the job, of making the Buddhists recognize the importance of the Vedas. But in order to do that, he had to make some compromise. And the compromise is Mayavad. You see, Buddhism is atheism, and Mayavad is something which is also covered atheism. Like Chaitanya Charitamrita is mentioning that Mayavad as Vedashraya Nastikavad. Vedashraya Nastikavad. The atheism on the basis of the Vedas is even worse than Buddhism. So then came, but Shankaracharya had to do that, because if you see, he had to defeat the Buddhists in order to establish the Vedas. So he had to speak in a way that they could accept it. And the way to do that was, Buddhism is saying the ultimate goal is nirvana, to become nothing. Right? So Shankaracharya came and pointed out that nirvana concept is a Vedic concept. And nirvana doesn't mean to become nothing, but nirvana means to become everything. Right? Sarvam Khalidam Brahma. So merge into Brahma is nirvana. So, like this is how he defeated the Buddhists and re-established the Vedas. But, he could not bring, proper personal concept of the Vedas. Therefore, he established the impersonal concept, Brahman aspect of the Vedas. And then came Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarkacharya, and Vishnu Swami. They established the personal concept of the Vedas. And then finally, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and established Radha Krishna. In that respect, I had the good fortune of hearing from Srila Prabhupada himself, which is actually identified also in the temple of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in Mayapur. Have you been to Mayapur? Okay. When you go there, you'll see Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's temple has 4 Sampradaya Acharyas in 4 corners of the temple. Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarkacharya, Krishna Swami. And Prabhupada pointed out that on the field of atheism, on the ground of atheism of Buddhism, Shankaracharya dug the foundation. So the building will go up this way, but foundation goes that way. Therefore, it seems that Shankaracharya's teachings are contradictory. No, that is the foundation on the field of atheism. And then on that foundation, 4 acharyas, Madhvacharya, Nimbarkacharya, Vishnu Swami, and Ramanujacharya, built a temple. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established Radha Krishna in the temple. So this is how Mahaprabhu's presentation is the ultimate perfection of that. Does it answer your question? Thank you. Yes?
Maharaj, one question. Is it possible in your schedule sometime you could visit Tampa and speak to our Bhakti group?
Yes, sure, I'll come. Now that you all have come, I am obliged to reciprocate. Sure, I'll come one of these days. I think it has to be one weekend, right? Yeah, sure, I'll come.